I started a new book. Actually, it's an old book that I've read so many times. I am currently rereading, for maybe the dozenth time, The Hobbit. The Hobbit is actually the first chapter book that anyone ever read to me. I remember growing up, my mom read to me The Hobbit, like, constantly. I grew up loving this book, and I haven't read it in a couple years, but over the Christmas season, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna read me some Hobbit, and I'm reading it, and it is striking me in such a deep, powerful way. The cool thing is about our faith that everything that's true, good, and beautiful belongs to God and leads us back to God. So when we find truth, beauty, and goodness in all its forms, it's a form of prayer and it leads us closer to God. And reading this book has led me closer to God. I'm a huge fan of stories. So is Jesus. If you read the Gospels, that man loves a parable. He loves to tell stories. So let me just summarize for you the story of The Hobbit. If for some reason you haven't read this book or seen the movie or read Lord of the Rings or seen it, okay, basic concept. There is a little man, there's a little hobbit, like a little short man with really hairy feet and curly hair named Bilbo Baggins. And he lives in the Shire and he lives a perfectly content life. He has multiple meals a day, he sleeps in, he takes baths, he drinks tea, he hangs with his friends, he loves butter and carbs. Like, he just lives a very content, chill, comfortable life. Spends his days in extreme and lavish comfort. That all changes when he meets someone, where he meets a wizard named Gandalf. And Gandalf bursts into his life and he calls him out on his passive and lazy ways and he invites him on an adventure. The adventure is to go on a journey with all these dwarves across lands and really far away, many miles away, to go reclaim the gold that was stolen from the dwarves, to reclaim this gold that a dragon has stolen. So they have to travel. Tolkien writes so beautifully that they have to travel into dark lands under strange moons. Before Bilbo agrees to go on this adventure, to go on this quest, he meets with all the dwarves, and the dwarves start singing songs of their heritage and of this gold of theirs that was stolen and what they're gonna do to claim it back. And as Bilbo is sitting in the corner hearing these songs about this adventure, his heart starts to come alive. His heart starts pounding, his mind starts racing, and he starts dreaming of a different life. He starts dreaming of leaving his comfort and his pleasures behind to go on an adventure. He starts dreaming of what his life could be. Bilbo at this point is like 50 years old. He's lived 50 years in extreme comfort, eating cheese, drinking wine, taking naps. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but it's really insufficient. And listening to the dwarves talk about this adventure, Bilbo realizes that previous life of comfort was holding him back. It was insufficient. It didn't satisfy him. And I live like Bilbo, so many of us do, just chasing after comforts and pleasures and just surrounding ourselves with things that make us feel good, molding our lives around the pursuit of comfort. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but a comfortable life is insufficient. It doesn't satisfy us. Pope Benedict XVI, he's famously attributed to this statement that the world offers you comfort, but you were not made for comfort, you were made for greatness. This is what Bilbo realizes. The world, the Shire, his community had been offering him comfort, but listening to the dwarves, he realizes that he wasn't actually made for comfort. He was made for greatness. He was made for an adventure. Gandalf bursts into Bilbo's life and tells Bilbo that there are great things waiting for him. And that's what our God does. He bursts into our life. He does like what he does to St. Peter. He steps into Peter's boat. He does what he does with Moses. He burns the bush. He bursts into our life. And God reminds us what we're made for. We're not made for comfort. We're made for greatness. We're made for an adventure with him. One of the other popes, John Paul II, says, life with Christ is a wonderful adventure. An adventure that we were made for. Bilbo eventually does go on the adventure, and his adventure, there's lots of rain and storms, and he's kidnapped by goblins and attacked by trolls, and he's lost and led astray, and he doesn't eat for multiple days at a time. His adventure isn't easy. It's actually really hard, but it's worth it. And that's with us. Following Christ is not gonna be easy. I think some Christians think that. I don't know why. They've never read the scriptures or looked at the lives of the saints, because the people who follow Jesus, their lives aren't easy. They're ridiculed by family and friends, and they experience temptations, and they fall into sin, and they suffer. Yes, but it's all worth it to go on an adventure to live a life with Christ. I 10 out of 10 recommend you reading The Hobbit, and I 10 out of 10 recommend you to invite the Holy Spirit to come into your heart, to wake you up, to inspire you to leave aside comfort and to pursue the greatness, to pursue the adventure God is calling us all on.